come out. I have not said anything about my personal opinions about anything behind, about the decisions behind walking out, because my opinions are irrelevant. A comment was also made that none of us were around during Columbine. I was actually in this high school during Columbine. I came home with Columbine on the news. I believe Katie, Lisa, Melissa, we were all in Penn Ridge as Penn Ridge students when Columbine happened. An article was written regarding the March 14th events at Penn Ridge High School without confirming any information with anyone from the administration or the board. First of all, a walkout was never supported by the administration or proposed to the board. The administration had safety concerns regarding students walking out of school from the beginning. What was proposed to the board was the Remembrance Assembly, and it was approved by all 7 board members in attendance at the meeting. At that time, it was made clear to students and parents by both the board and the administration that walking out of school would be subject to consequences as per the student handbook. The superintendent followed up with a letter to the parents outlining everything in advance. There was no dissenting opinion expressed by any board member or administrator. To suggest anyone proposed a dissenting view at that meeting, or that 2 board members overruled a board of 9 and the administration, is inaccurate and illogical. The problem with allowing a walkout for one issue is that it sets a precedent for any future issues. The board and administration are not the moral authority. We cannot pick and choose which issues to waive consequences for and which ones to enforce. They must be enforced fairly and consistently across the board. I'm sure you can imagine how dysfunctional and unsafe the district would be if any students could walk out of school at any time for any reason without consequences. The First Amendment doesn't discriminate, and neither can we, or we would open the door to lawsuits. There is also a safety risk involved in breaking rules. That's why there are rules. If you break them, you know you are taking on a risk and accepting specific consequences. If those risks are taken away, it's no longer civil disobedience. The administration gave parents the option of signing their children out and transferring that risk to themselves and off of school property. If someone had walked out without parents' permission and got injured, think about the liability issues of that. If those parents said, you know, I didn't give you permission to let my kid walk out of school. In light of the divisiveness of this issue and the desire to lead the way and unify the students on all sides, Student Council created an event not tied to any political group or issues. They wanted an assembly that they hoped all fellow students could come together and be part of in showing respect and remembrance for the victims. Some students made it clear they did not think the assembly sent the message they wanted to send, and they planned to walk out anyway and would proudly accept their detentions. That is their right, and good for them. Good for them if they stood up for what they believed in. That's the whole point of civil disobedience. And the reason it's a walkout instead of a march on a Saturday. You feel so strongly about something that you are willing to break the rules and accept the consequences to send the message you want to send. Think about the civil rights movement. People were willing to go to jail to send the messages they wanted to send and to seek change. Excuse me. Keep in mind there are other students. I missed my spot here. Some students made it clear they did not think the assembly sent the message they wanted to send, and they, oh, I'm sorry, I've lost my spot. Okay, keep in mind there are other students who feel pressured to participate in something they don't believe in and are afraid of being alienated from their peers by choosing not to partake in this protest. There are parents who feel like a political group is injecting their kids into politics, and their kids shouldn't have to be exposed to this kind of political division. There is also the issue that classes and learning would stop for this protest, whether they agree with it or not, and the law is clear that political protests cannot disrupt the educational process for other students. Different people see the issue very differently, and there are many legal implications. Many have pointed out that this protest is for stronger gun laws, but not everyone is interpreting it that way, whether they agree with that perspective or not. Some think they are walking out to remember the victims whose lives were lost. Some think they are protesting school shootings in general. Some just want to get out of class. Some believe it's protesting law enforcement, the military, and that it's anti-American because the Women's March states police brutality, militarized policing, and the belief that the U.S. is an imperialist nation as reasons described on their website for walking out. There are still others who feel that having events on anniversaries of school shootings memorializes the shooters, and they do not want to send that message of infamy. We also had one woman share that her family is Jewish and she feels threatened that an organization with significant ties to people who are anti-Semitic is being embraced in the schools. We have heard from people with all of these different perspectives. In a public school system, we have to be careful not to take sides and to make sure the rights of all students are protected and school policies are enforced consistently across the board. We had a very lively discussion with students at the meeting, and I believe we were on the same page by the end. I appreciated students getting involved in the process and coming out and advocating for what they believe in. I also appreciated the positive work and intentions made by a group of students on student council to turn this into something unifying. Our students are learning how to exercise these rights and express their beliefs, and I think it's a positive thing that they are learning to accept consequences. When they get out of school, they won't have adults to shield them from the laws. If they walk out of their jobs, they can be fired. We do them a disservice if we shield them from reality and we open Pandora's box for any walkout, no matter how positive or negative the agenda is. Likewise, if we choose not to enforce one policy, it delegitimizes all other policies.
Christine, Mrs. Jordan. I would like to say something. The question about the minutes, I don't think none of the chair people of our committees write the minutes. For the activities committee, Dr. Price would be in charge of those, and we'll look into seeing if we can capture it. But in his defense, there were a lot of comments that night, and to be able to take minutes and listen to what's happening at the same time is rather difficult. So maybe there's a way that we can try and take care of that problem. And I just wanted to express that everybody was saying about how the safety is not an issue because the kids go to, walk into the school and leave the school at the same time every day. For me, that's really not what I was thinking about. When we talk about safety and order, I was thinking more of the day-to-day, once you're in the building, how do you maintain that order and that safety? We tell kids they can't walk out of class without a pass, for example, and that's what was in my mind. How could you then say to students, you can't walk out of the building if we give some students the right to walk out of the building without consequence? So to me, it wasn't necessarily them being outside, although I did see that point, that perhaps it could be unsafe because people all over the world knew that this was happening. And to the point about responding to people on social media, if someone asks a question, it would be rude not to respond, so that was what I did. And to the greater point that seems to be troubling everyone is this idea of personal politics somehow making it impossible to be fair. A person can disagree with you strongly and still treat you fairly. Just because you don't agree on something doesn't mean that that person can't be fair with you. And that's what happened here. I see all sorts of opinions from people, from employees of ours that we have here in Penn Ridge. Some of them have very strong opinions that they express on social media, but I don't make assumptions about them that they're not able to carry out the duties that they're assigned here at Penn Ridge. My central thought was always, how do you maintain the consistency in enforcing that policy? And I'll be very honest, I'm a member of the NRA, but if this were the walkout to support the NRA's school safety platform, my answer would have been the same. You may walk out and say whatever you'd like, but you'll have to suffer the consequence for that. My opinion won't change based on what the issue is. My only opinion is I want to maintain a safe learning environment that is free from undue disruption. And this was an instance where I thought it wouldn't be safe, and we'd have undue disruption, and we'd set a precedent that we couldn't possibly uphold in the future. That's where I was coming from. Thank you.
Mrs. Yardley?
Yep.
Since the board is taking turns speaking up,
go
I'd
ahead,
like
go
to
ahead.
take a shot at it. I promise you I won't be as long or wordy. First off, to the students, I am in awe of you. Your strength, your courage, your commitment, your eloquence in speaking, your ability to withstand darts being thrown from every direction. I applaud you. I support you. As a matter of fact, I marched in D.C. on Saturday. I feel so strongly about your mission. We as a board, we try to present a unified appearance. We don't always agree, but we try. We try even, if our beliefs differ, we try to give a unified presence out here. There's 9 of us. We're a party of 9, and that's how we have to represent ourselves. I did agree with the handbook. Following the handbook, I felt, and as everyone has noticed and had noted, that the students never disagreed with that. You were willing to take that punishment, so thank you for that. But that is part of our job, to keep all the students safe, to recognize the needs, emotional, social, educational needs of all the students, and the safety. So thank you. Again, I thank you for your courage. I am truly in awe of you, and thank you so much. You have made my outlook on the future much brighter. Thank you.
Anyone else on the board want to speak? Okay, I have something, since everyone's just speaking for myself and everyone's taking turns, so I just want to start off saying that I feel that I made a mistake. I did not publicly make my views on the situation clear at the activities meeting on March 12th. I had made, I had shared my views with the superintendent. I can't go back to that meeting, but I can try and make my views clear tonight and move forward with that. I would like to say that we all see this issue the same way as a board, but that's not the truth, and that's not my truth. And so I feel that I need to say that to share my views. So originally, I did not have a strong position on what the events would be on March 14th, and my position from the beginning has been that the planning of the events during the school day was an administrative responsibility and not the role of the board. Let them come up with the administration and the students come up with a plan that the students felt was right, and then have the board weigh in. I don't think that entirely happened, and I don't believe that everyone truly listened to each other. And I think that if people had truly listened, we wouldn't be where we are right now. Part of the problem with this issue is that we don't even agree on the terms of the argument. Are we talking about kids feeling safe in school? Are we talking about kids being safe in school? Are we talking about sensible gun control? Are we talking about First Amendment rights or Second Amendment rights? I think it was clear that tonight everybody came at it from a different angle, and everybody sees this issue from a different point of view, and that's part of the problem, that we don't agree on the terms of the argument. So I hope, for the sake of our community, that people can really listen to one another and try to try and hear what other people are saying. We've received a lot of emails, and there have been many opinions printed in the newspaper. Every day there's more, and on social media. And I have been listening and reading and trying to figure out what the right answer is. And I really found that the most powerful voices are those of our students and of our alumni. So our job as educators should be to serve our students and lift them up. And we need to support them. I don't know that we did that on March 14th. I know we had many options, but I think, hearing from students and seeing what what students are saying and feeling. I don't see them that they felt supported by the district. It didn't have to be Republicans versus Democrats or First Amendment versus Second Amendment. Instead of finding a way for all the voices to be heard on March 14th, some students felt heard and some, were given a detention. Ironically, by giving them attention, we gave the students a bigger voice, and that's one of the biggest positives, I think, from this experience. As was noted, the students don't really seem to have an issue with the detention, and I guess that's maybe not really what the issue is. I think the issue is that the students feeling supported by the district and feeling that they had a place to have their voice be heard. Because the board made a decision, although it was not a vote, it was at a committee meeting, we all need to move forward with that. But I hope in the future that if we have this type of issue again, it would go to a vote. And I want in the future that all students feel that they're supported by the school district. So if some people did not find my position clear at the March 12th meeting, I'm making it clear now. I believe that Penridge missed the opportunity to allow students to voice their opinions about school safety without being punished for that. I don't think it was just a matter of walking out. Some people say they don't want to talk about the issues, but I don't think that's the answer either. I think we have to discuss issues, and we don't all have to agree, but I think they should have that. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but hopefully we can find a way that that students can feel supported by the district and have their voices heard at the same time. I think their voices were heard. I think everybody did have a voice on that day. I just think it didn't necessarily have to be the way that it was, and I go back to people again not truly listening and making it so that that students could feel supported. Thank you.
First, I'd like to say thank you to the students for your commitment, for your courage. I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s, and we walked out of school too. So I applaud you. There were consequences then as well, I'm sorry to say. And as a board, this is a difficult position to be in, but on March 12th, we did have a meeting to hear the student body's proposal for a remembrance of the 17 victims in Parkland, Florida. The superintendent was present along with 7 board members. Student council, in concert with the administration, proposed a plan for a remembrance assembly, specifically to show respect and remembrance for the victims of the Parkland shooting. No other proposals were presented to the board at any time. The proposal as presented by the student body was accepted without dissent. During the public comment portion of the meeting, it became clear that a portion of the student body expressed a desire to leave class to participate in a 17-minute protest outside of the building. The board and the administration made it clear that any student who left the building without being signed out by a guardian would have to accept whatever consequences were outlined in the student handbook. This district and these board members are committed to administering its policies equally and without favoring or opposing any particular viewpoint to the exclusion of others. While the district respects the opinions of all its students, it's also responsible for ensuring the safety of its students throughout the school day. So once again, I applaud you for your actions. And it's incumbent on us as board members to keep you safe during the school day, to provide an educational environment that is has the instructional time that we're provided, that we're obligated to provide. So I encourage you to stay involved in the political process. I encourage you to stay active. But please, let's try to keep politics out of this room. When I'm up here, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat. I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve you, the students, and to the community. I'm disappointed in you. I have seen some of the most vile, disgusting emails you can imagine, calling me everything under the sun. And you don't know me. You don't know why I'm here. So to the community who wrote those letters, I'm disgusted. To the students, I'm proud of you. So continue your fight, continue your efforts to make change. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we will move to, what's next? The consent calendar.